Yeah, is there any experience that sort of stood out for you?
Oh, I've had a lot of experiences that really stand out. I think going to Istanbul with Haka Works was definitely a standout for me. Going to all the different mosques over there, but one in particular that really stood out, and I'm sure you remember this one too, Kyle, was going over to Iraq. I know. I think back to that trip, and I remember receiving a message from Haka Works asking if I was interested in going over, and I think at the time, I knew it was a risk going over to Iraq. It was just before everything kind of exploded over there in terms of the lay of the land now. And at the time, I was thinking, no, it's not safe enough going over there. But then I also thought, well, when are you ever going to go to Iraq?
Yeah.
So I said yes, traveled over to Iraq. And I think for me, that was the biggest eye opener of culture shock, really, because over there things are so different. You know, you're the visitor, so you have to adapt. But what I really found fascinating was, correct me if I'm wrong, but how they adapted to Haka. I think, you know, a lot of cultures, some pick up Haka really well and some take a little bit longer to connect to what it is. But over there in Iraq, we did maybe 4 or 5 workshops with different groups, and all of them connected to Haka really, really well. So much so that you wouldn't have known that they've just learned how to do Haka, because they have such a raw energy and a really expressive way of being. They connected to Haka really well. So that was one of the things that really stood out for me. And of course, there was a bombing that happened while we were there, and we had to run downstairs in our pew-pew, grab our passports, run downstairs into a bunker, and wait for everything to blow over before we were taken to the airport and flown out of Iraq. So most memorable trip for 2 different reasons.
Yeah, I remember with that bomb, it was the place where we were staying, Erbil, hadn't been bombed for about 7 years, and that was the first time it happened for a long time. So and then what we didn't realize, that was the start of ISIS coming back into the area. So now I just want to go back to your other point, because I agree, there's different cultures respond to what we do in different ways. But in terms of the deeper aspects of Haka, you know, when you're talking about Ihi and Wihi, I just found Iraq, the people, you know, their skin is so thin in terms of getting to that part of who we are. For a lot of other cultures, it's quite hard for us to dig through those layers. But in Iraq, it's just like the spark just happened like this. It was incredible. So I'll never forget that trip for that reason as well. It's something that always stays within me.
That's right. Not only was it easy for them to connect to the fire that comes through Haka, but it was also quite hard to turn it off.
Well, I just remember right at the end, because we had this, there was a competitive element, and one particular group won. It wasn't mine, it was yours.
I think
and the next minute they were doing an Iraqi dance, which is incredible, and then they grabbed you and put you on top of their shoulders, and yeah. So,
and again, I wasn't as big as I am now, and I was only wearing pew-pew, so for me, there was, I mean, you just had to go with it because there was no but I can't imagine that happening now and how I would react. I don't think I would react differently, but it was just so overwhelming. And just go with it. Yeah. But again, it was quite hard to, because they were so excited and they were vibrating at a certain level, the hirangaranga that we call it, and it was quite hard for them to come down from that. But just shows you the power of Haka.